You'll see the next one, and we're excited. I'm going to do that again. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Try it again.
Oh, we're going to do it all over again?
Yeah.
Do what?
The same thing all the time. Like, hello, hello, hello. Isn't that what we do every time? Okay.
Hey.
Book up.
But I thought, don't you do...
Oh, yeah, I guess
come
that's
up first?
True. Yeah, like, I don't know. How do I say it? Supernatural, yeah. Hello again.
Hello.
Hello.
We're back.
We are. We've returned again for yet another video. I feel like we always do the same thing. Is that true? Do we always do the same thing? I can't really. I don't know.
That's okay.
Is it?
I like it.
Okay. Well, we are Shelf-Possessed.
I'm David.
And I'm Craig. And welcome back to another video. Mm-hmm. We're super excited to be here to share with you the results and the book reports for our chapter taste test books that we picked.
For January.
Yeah. So this will serve as both the wrap up for our chapter taste test and our January wrap up, because the only books that we read were the books that we picked from our chapter taste test for January. Mm-hmm. So we're going to share our book report cards for those. And if you aren't aware, here on our channel, rather than doing star ratings, we do book report cards because we are both educators, and so we feel like that's probably the best way to give you a good glimpse into what we actually thought about the book. So, how do you feel about your book report cards this month?
I'm really excited for mine because I had no complaints.
So if you were a teacher and you were submitting these book report cards to parents, you wouldn't be afraid?
No.
Okay.
No, I'd be these are the top of the heap.
Okay.
Really, especially for January, which is, the first month of 2022. I think we're off to a good start, or at least I am.
Yeah. I got a good mixture. I'm not like I didn't fail anyone, to be certain. So that's a good thing.
No.
Yeah. But before we get there, if you haven't, like and subscribe, give us that thumbs up and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified whenever we have new videos. And comment down below what you think of these books that we read for January, if you've read them, or if you have thoughts on them, or you agree or disagree with what we thought of them. So comment down below, share with us what you're thinking about these books as well. We're excited to hear from you. So should we jump into it?
Let's do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You want to move?
Why don't you start? You're up.
I have I got my 3 books, but I also managed to read a 4th book. So I'm going to share that one with you last, because you saw it in our book haul. So I'm excited to kind of talk about that one as well. So my first book that I chose for the chapter taste test was Last Woman Standing by Amy Gentry, which David obviously chose for me. And David read this. You know David's thoughts on it. And now you get to hear mine. So this was a perfect book to start off with. When I picked the first chapter, I immediately kept reading because I wanted to know what happened. So I kind of broke the rules of the chapter taste test and just kept going before I read anything else. And then just tore through it, got through it really fast, found the audio of it as well. So I was listening to it and reading it at the same time. And actually, weirdly, quick detour, that's been happening a lot for me. I can read without an audiobook, and I can listen to a book without reading it. But somehow when I'm reading and listening at the same time, I'm definitely more intensely focused. I'm definitely more aware of what's going on, and I can set the book down for a second and still have it going on and then pick it back up. And I really am enjoying doing that. It's helping a lot. The first one I remember that helping with was Sweet Bitter, and doing that just changed the way I was reading. So maybe it's because I'm not fixated on something else, or I'm have to be hyper fixated on 2 things at one time. So I don't know. But anyway, sorry for the detour.
I think I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I find another voice in my head distracting because there's already too many in there anyway. But so what else?
Well, I absolutely love this book. I gave this book for plot development and pacing a 90 out of 100. And that's probably the lowest score, just because my only complaint is that I think the beginning is a little too long. Like I was engaged by it, but I wanted to like get to the action of what was happening. But once that passes, like the rest of the book is like stellar. For character development, I gave it a 95. I loved the main character. I know why we didn't get as much development of other people, because it's obviously there's surprises that are in store. It's a thriller, so that makes sense. Theme and subject matter, 100 out of 100. Perfect for me. Like, great way to fuse this idea of like vengeance, revenge, Me Too, and stand-up comedy, and like Strangers on a Train. All of that kind of like melded together perfectly for me. The writing style is 95. I love Amy Gentry's voice, and I love the way she writes characters. And then engagement was a 98. I rarely put this down, so I pretty much tore through it. That gives it a final score of 96 out of 100, which is an A. So for Last Woman Standing by Amy Gentry, A.
So my first book was the first book that I did for the chapter taste test, and that was Hallie Sutton's The Lady Upstairs. It's what's funny about this is that Hallie Sutton took a kind of a Raymond Chandler-esque character and made them female. And it's kind of it's almost like if she rewrote The Maltese Falcon, but she put strong female characters at the forefront of this story. So I really, really enjoyed this. This was the first one that I read for January, and absolutely loved it. The first chapter kind of got me through. For plot development and pacing, I gave it a 90 out of 100. I don't know about you, but if I'm reading, let's say, a mystery book or something of that caliber, if I kind of figure out what's going on before I'm told by the writer, that kind of puts me out of it a little bit, but I don't think that deterred me. I want to be surprised, and I don't, once the reveal happened, I wasn't too surprised. I was like, okay. But it didn't take it away from the story. Character development, 100. Theme and subject matter, 100. Writing and reader engagement, 100. I got through this very quickly in about 2 days, and it was just a very great book. Something I haven't read before, so that's what kind of kept me going. And the main character is just fantastic, too. So, yeah.
So what was your final grade?
98 out of 100.
Which is a...
A!
Okay, my next book is the... My next book is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, which was another one that David purchased, but also picked for me to read. And one that I was worried I wasn't going to get through because everything else kind of, I don't know. January got away in a lot of different ways, and I didn't get to this one until the very, very end. And I loved this book. I'm not surprised. I love Circe. And you add in a lovely... like grounded, homosexual relationship, like that is between two people who have known each other for so long. But also it's about Greek gods. Like there's just so much going on in this book that I really appreciated. I love Greek mythology, and I love especially retellings of Greek mythology. And the two characters in this book are just, I don't know how you could not love both of them. And it is epic, and it's wonderful. Like, and I read it quickly. Like, it took me only like a little less than a week to read through the whole thing, which is weird because it's not a thriller and it's not a horror novel. It's very dense in a lot of ways, but it moves quickly. And they spend 10 years in a war, but those chapters just pass by like nobody's business. Like, you just get to go through the whole thing with them, which is great. So for The Song of Achilles, for plot development and pacing, 100 out of 100, like perfectly paced. Like, the plot was great. I loved every minute of that. Character development is 95 out of 100. That's only because at the end of it, I sort of felt like, I don't know. I didn't love some of the wrap-ups of some of the characters, but I understand why that choice was made. But that's just a personal preference for me. Theme and subject matter, 97 out of 100. Almost perfect. Like, yeah. Writing style, 100 out of 100. If you've not read a Madeline Miller book, you need to. Like, this is beautiful prose. Circe is the same way. Like, it's beautiful to read it, but also you're ingesting so much content as well. So, and then reader engagement was 95. It took me a minute to get into this. Like, I remember I would do like a chapter or two every couple days, and then it would just take me a minute to get into it. But once I was into it, I was into it. So that means a 97 out of 100, which is an A. So Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, A.
So if I wasn't a Greek mythology fan, would I still like this book?
I think so. I think that the Greek mythology and understanding of those stories and kind of the influence of the gods and like the fall of Troy, if you are aware of the Iliad, like you know the story of the Iliad. Mm-hmm. This is basically just a retelling of the Iliad, okay. But from different characters' perspectives, from Achilles and Patroclus' perspectives. But the events of the Iliad are still there. Okay. And so if you understand that and you understand a little bit of mythology, I think it just adds a layer on top of it. But it was beautiful. So I think you would like it. And it made me sad. So, yeah.
Okay, my next book was Megan Abbott's You Will Know Me. That takes place in the competitive gymnastic arena. And it really kind of dives deep into, let's say if your child was a kind of like an athletic prodigy, how far would you go to keep them on that rise to fame and glory? I think it's a fantastic book. There's a mystery element to it, and which, aside from the lady upstairs, this is the type of mystery that I like, that keeps you guessing and keeps you awake at night until you finish the book. So I think it took me about a day and a half to get through this book. So it was really hundreds all the way down for this report card. So the final grade that I give You Will Know Me is 100. I think it's just fantastic. I like reading books by authors after I'm done with them, and I love them so much, I will go and buy at least 2 more books in their catalog. So that's what I did after this. So, yeah. So, A+.
All right.
Oh. Oh, no. No. I just saw a grade. Okay.
My next book is The Return by Rachel Harrison, which, again, obviously, these are all picked by David, so we know David picked them, but David read this before me and wanted me to read it, and so this was the second one I picked up after Last Woman Standing, and then I read Song of Achilles at the end of the month. So I don't know that we're going to argue necessarily, but when I finished this book, I was away at a theater festival with my high school students, and I texted him and I said, I don't understand what happens at the end. I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me? And I was like, I had to go back and reread it again and then re-listen to it to understand kind of the whole thing. I didn't hate this book by any means. I enjoy the writing. I enjoy the setting. And I think that the world that Harrison builds throughout this book is actually really, really interesting and scary and dark and weird. There's a lot of weird stuff that's happening. My biggest gripes with this book come at the end, because I still don't fully feel like I understand what happens to one of the characters at the end. I like the path it takes to get there, but I don't know that I fully grasp how it happened, why it happened, all of that stuff. So that is the only thing that's holding up, giving it a good score or a perfect score. But for plot development and pacing, I gave it an 85 out of 100. I think the plot moves quickly. Mm-hmm. I think the pacing of it works, and it's short. It's a short book. It's only 280 pages. Character development, I gave it a 90 out of 100. Most of the characters I like. There are 2 characters who I don't feel like we get enough information about.
Yeah, I think that was my complaint too.
Yeah. 2 of the friends that are on this trip, we don't really know much about, except for what the other people say about them. Theme and subject matter, I gave it an 85, just because I don't 100% know what she was trying to say. Because in a horror book, oftentimes I don't always need the horror to represent something, but I need to understand why that is happening or why it was made, why that choice was made. So Writing style, 90 out of 100. Again, I really like her writing, and you'll see in my next book why, I don't understand some things. And then engagement is an 85. I mean, I was on board with this whole book the whole time. I read it. I mean, I didn't stop it. I didn't want to put it down necessarily. It's just that by the end I was like, huh? So, yeah.
I think it's hard to debate this book without going into spoilers.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think overall, I think it's a story about friendship. And what happens when, let's say you don't see each other for quite a while and then you meet back up and you're completely changed. So yeah, that's what I got out of it. I think I can't talk about that because it's going to spoil it. But, I think it just, people change over time and friendships change and they grow into something else. And sometimes you're surprised by that. And sometimes there's people in a friend group that want people to stay the same or they want their relationships to stay the same. And that just doesn't work out that way.
Well, and I understand that. From a writing standpoint, I understand that that's probably what she was trying to say. I just don't think that the horror element that comes at the end justifies that. Like, I feel like there could have been something different that happened there. So, I mean, it's not a bad book. I mean, if you like horror and you like that, like, dark, encroaching scariness, then this is a good book to read. I would always prepare yourself for the end and make sure that you're, like, reading closely so that you know what's happening. That means my final score for The Return by Rachel Harrison is an 87 out of 100, which is a B+, which, again, is not bad.
No.
That's not bad. That would be that's like a 4-star book. You know what I mean? Like, that's not bad. Like,
yeah, what I like about that book too is like you actually feel like you're there.
Yes.
It's a setting in a hotel, and you feel that grime, you feel that grossness of this hotel too.
Well, and that changes as it progresses.
It starts to decay over time, and I love that.
Yeah,
I think that's what I loved about the book. Okay, well. Okay, so my last book is Jen Silverman's We Play Ourselves, another just fantastic book. A young playwright from New York is, let's say, quote unquote, canceled. She makes her way to California to kind of figure herself out. And she's staying with her best friend. And next door is this documentarian who is making this documentary about a young female fight club. And she kind of becomes intertwined in that. Right across the board, just an A+ right across the board with plot development and pacing, character development, theme and subject matter, writing style, and reader engagement. All of those 100%. Leaving this off with a definitive A++++. Another book. I like reading books that, the subject matter I've never read about before. And I think this was just fantastic. And you just don't see these types of characters in books. And that's what I really, really love. So I thought this was fantastic.
The funny thing is I bought that book for myself and then still haven't read it. But then now he's read it and loved it. So
yeah, I think it's really good. It also talks about, let's say, if you kind of peak at a certain point and you're making all of your assumptions and your judgments based on other people's successes. And I think you kind of learn how to drift away from that as you get older. But the main character is kind of struggling through that throughout this book of knowing her worth, but she's kind of seeing her worth through other people's eyes and other people's successes, which happens a lot. Yeah. So I think it was something that kind of hit close to me anyway.
That's good. I mean, that's what we want books to do. So
yeah. So a very good reading month for me.
Yeah, pretty much all A's across the board for you.
Yeah.
I have 2 A's and a B. And then I have a surprise. I finished a 4th book that wasn't on the chapter taste test at all. You saw this book in our book haul that we just did. And because I had finished The Return... Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you. Because I had finished The Return, I decided to buy Rachel Harrison's next book, which I was like, well, maybe I'll be surprised by this one. Maybe this one I will really enjoy. And like, I've heard it talked about. And so I was like, yeah, let's get it. So I got Cackle. The cover is great. Love the cover. The premise is really cool. It is about a young woman who meets a witch, and it might be too good to be true. This is a book where I did feel like I knew what she was trying to say pretty close to about halfway through the book. I could kind of feel like I knew, not that I knew where it was going, but like that I knew what the horror or what the like scary parts of the book were trying to say to me as an audience member. I think that if you think that this is going to be a horror novel, you would be wrong. It's not a horror novel by any means. I would barely even call it a thriller. I would probably, to me, it's more like supernatural kind of romance-y, but the romance is really between two friends, and how, you bond when there's, not much around you, and how you rise above, the things that are holding you down. The main character in this book is a teacher, and she is a disaffected teacher, which I think many of us can have some compassion and understanding for, especially right now. And she meets this stranger in this tiny upstate New York town, and this stranger starts to kind of bring things out in her and make her realize things about herself, and then kind of, allows her to access her power in a way, and kind of change her life. There were some things about this book that I thought were very, very strange, and in a good way, but also things that were strange in a bad way that I didn't quite understand. But overall, I liked this. I think I liked this better than I liked The Return. I was more captivated by this book for sure. So for plot development and pacing, I give it a 90 out of 100. Again, it moves quickly, but sometimes it derails itself. Character development, 90 out of 100. I didn't love either of the two main characters that much, so I was engaged by them, but I didn't love them. Theme and subject matter, I gave it an 80 out of 100. I mean, like I said, I think I know what she's trying to say, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but I think that could have been clearer. Writing style is 95 out of 100. I like the way that she writes. I like her voice. I like the writing style in total. I think that she's a great writer. I just think that the story wasn't quite rising to meet the writing style. So, and then in reader engagement, I gave it an 85 because I was pretty engaged throughout the whole thing. I kept reading it. I didn't put it down. That gives it a final grade of an 88 out of 100, which is a B. Well, technically B+, but a B for Cackle. So for me, both The Return and Cackle were both Bs, which I don't think is bad. I just don't know. I don't know if I'll pick up another Rachel Harrison book after this. I mean, I might.
So knowing me, would I like Cackle?
No.
No?
I don't think so. I think that you would be frustrated by it.
Okay.
Because it isn't. I think it's. I don't know. People are talking about it as like a horror novel, and I don't know. And that's not necessarily right. Yeah, it's more a book about female friendship and trust and I don't know, getting out of your own way in a lot of ways. To me, it feels more like a romance novel than anything else. It just happens to have some supernatural elements to it. I read The Ex-Hex, I read Payback's a Witch, and then this book. I would actually lump all three of them together. This has less romance than the other than the other two, and has more like witchcraft and some slightly scary things and some kind of gross things. But they all kind of fit to me in the same box.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Song of Achilles and Last Woman Standing were both A's for me, and then both Rachel Harrison books were B's for me this month. So you have all A's.
Mine were all A's, except for the lady upstairs got a regular, just A. No plus.
Right,
but that shouldn't deter you away from getting it, because I think a lot of the books that I had, that I read, just have very complex, dynamic main characters in them that they're very rare.
Yeah. What's funny is that 6 out of the 7 books that we read are all female protagonists, strong female protagonists, mostly female writers. All female writers for me and for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should say something. I mean, that tells us a lot about what we like to read and the kind of people we like to read. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the taste test. I think it works. I was glad that we found these books.
I think I always get worried because last January we had a good reading month, or at least I remember having a good reading month, and it kind of sets the foundation for the whole year for me. So, but I think the books that we're getting for next month, I think hopefully, will continue on that trend.
Yeah.
But those were the ones you picked for me.
Yep.
So
those were the ones you picked for me.
Good. Well, You did great.
You did good too. Again, I don't think a B is like, if we're talking from a grading perspective as a teacher, a B is not a bad thing. Like a B is fine.
I'm just an overachiever, so.
I know, but I mean, of the 3 books that you picked 10, but the fact that I picked these 3, I read all 3 of them and I liked them to an extent. Like I loved 2 of them. I loved these 2 very much. This one, I just didn't like the ending. And then I bought Cackle because of the one that you chose for me. So, I mean, that should say something as well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, that is our January wrap up. Those are the results of our chapter taste tests, which I think we liked doing. I think we probably could do it again maybe later this year. I will say, to resolve it, reading 10 chapters, 1 chapter of each book is really difficult.
Yeah, I didn't like that very much.
Yeah, and then it's deciding kind of what you want to read after that is also pretty difficult. So, but I'm glad we picked the ones that we picked because they seem to really stick. And I think like Song of Achilles will be a book that will be in my like top 10 probably
for this year
of all time. Oh,
really? Mm-hmm. All time? Great.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I think there's going to be a couple on this list anyway. That's going to be that kind of moved to my new top 10 for 2022. So
nice.
We'll see how that kind of goes out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's our January wrap up. Thank you for coming back. We are Shelf Possessed.
I'm David.
And I'm Craig. Check us out on Instagram.
At @shelf_possessed.
And if you haven't, like, comment, hit that bell notification. Let us know what you think of these books and our grades, if you agree, disagree. Also, if you'd like any audiobooks and you want to help us support our local bookstores, there's a Libro FM affiliate link also below. You can click that and get some audiobooks for yourself as well. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining us again, and stay tuned for our February TBR reveal. I'm excited. Are you excited for February?
I am, because they're authors I have never read, so I'm excited for that.
That is good.
Yeah. So wait, no. There's one that I've read, which is why I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a surprise.
So, We'll see you very soon. Thank you for coming back.
Bye.
Bye.